I want to bring in former Republican Congressman Charlie Dent and former Democratic Congressman Joe Crowley. It's good to have both of you here. Congressman Dent, the president was asked about Americans who don't want to get involved in another war just yesterday, and here's what he said.
I don't want to get involved either, but I've been saying for 20 years, maybe longer, that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I've been saying it for a long time. And I think they were a few weeks away from having one. And they had to sign a document. I think they wish they signed it now. It was a fair deal. And now it's a harder thing to sign, you know. It's a lot of water over the dam. But, you know, it's very, I say it very simply. Iran can't have a nuclear weapon.
Congressman Dent, is that answer going to be good enough for those in Trump's MAGA base who oppose a U.S. strike?
Well, I think President Trump has put himself in a real box here. On the one hand, he's been yapping for years about the Bush-Cheney wars in the Middle East. He's against the interventionism. And on the other hand, he's been very critical of the Obama-Biden agreement, the nuclear agreement with Iran. And then, of course, he pulled out of it. He's looking for a third way and cannot find one. I happen to think that Trump's base, his hardcore base, is going to stick with him no matter what he does. But if I were Donald Trump, I'd be much more worried about how this issue is going to dominate his presidency if he does, in fact, strike. Iran has a funny way of undermining a lot of presidencies. Jimmy Carter with the hostages, Ronald Reagan, Iran-Contra, George Bush in Iraq, Iran meddled there. Biden, the whole October 7th was largely instigated by Iran, getting Hamas to attack Israel so brutally the way they did. So right now, I think Trump's got a real problem, and he's not helping himself. He needs a diplomatic way out of here, but he's not helping himself with these tweets about unconditional surrender, which sounds to me like regime change. You know, he's dealing with Bibi Netanyahu's persistence and Khamenei's defiance, and he doesn't know how to get through this. And I think he's, like I said, I think his base will stick with him, but he's going to have a much bigger problem with the broader electorate if things don't go the way he would like.
Well, and what is that way at this point? Congressman Crowley, coming back to the clip we showed bumping in, Tucker Carlson, among others, has been very vocally against the U.S. getting involved militarily with Iran. And the president actually talked about Carlson in the Oval Office. Watch.
My supporters are for me. My supporters are America first and make America great again. My supporters don't want to see Iran have a nuclear weapon. Tucker's a nice guy. He called and apologized the other day. If they think that it's okay for Iran to have a nuclear weapon, then they should oppose me, but nobody thinks it's okay.
Axios lays out the political dilemma this way. MAGA's most outspoken isolationists, Tucker Carlson, Steve Bannon, Marjorie Taylor Greene, have warned that joining the war would betray Trump's legacy and potentially destroy his presidency. Pro-Israel hardliners, Laura Loomer, Mark Levin, Senator Tom Cotton argue that nothing would be more America first than striking a regime that chants death to America. Congressman Crowley, what kind of political predicament does this put the president in?
Well, clearly, Anna, the president was moving towards diplomatic solution with Iran. He wanted talks with Iran. He wanted to supposedly have a new deal with Iran. And all of a sudden that changed overnight with the attacks by Israel, by Netanyahu, who seems to be pulling the president by the nose here. You know, as was stated, you know, the president has called for unconditional surrender. You call for unconditional surrender when you're at war. That doesn't, you know, you just don't do that. And you're taking ownership here. So I do think the president would be smart and wise to really engage Congress here, to kind of spread this out a little bit. He is saying that he owns this decision. Only he can make this decision. No one knows what he's going to do. I think he'd be smarter if he would have spread this out a bit and get some advice from folks who have been through these things before. Should
politics play big in his decision-making?
Well, look, I think politics is always at play. I don't think it ought to. I think what we're dealing with here is life and death. Well, we've been involved in war in the Middle East for almost 40 years, maybe 30 years at least. I think there is a bit of fatigue that is setting in, certainly with the American people. These endless wars, as the president talked about, it's counter to everything he said politically. He was going to end the endless wars. And yet here he's inching towards another engagement in the very region that we're talking about, the Middle East.
Meanwhile, Congressman Dent, adding to the MAGA division here, is Tulsi Gabbard, and we've reported she's been sidelined now after she had tweeted out a video warning against action in Iran, and she testified in March that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon. How significant is it to have the director of national intelligence on the outs in early administration?
Well, it signals to me that, let's say Tulsi Gabbard, Bannon, Carlson, I'll say the pro-Russia wing of the Trump base is also against any type of a military intervention here. I think that's pretty significant. So I think it seems fairly obvious that she's being sidelined right now. And I fear that right now the president is not getting the type of sage advice from his inner circle about how to deal with this crisis. I don't know that the team he has assembled can really help him. I mean, I just read a great piece by Kareem Sajapur in The Economist. Fantastic piece about all the implications. They need somebody like him in there, giving them guidance about how to navigate this. And I don't think he's getting that type of sober, unvarnished advice, going through all the scenarios, the knowns and the unknowns, what the second and third order effects are going to be. It's not happening. It's not coming from his team, so it seems. And so he's out there, winging it on his own, making a lot of statements about how unpredictable he is, and he doesn't know what he's going to do. I don't think any of this is helping. This is a time for them to be quiet and start, having serious conversations internally about the best course of action instead of all this nonsensical tweeting.
Former Congressman Charlie Dent and Joseph Crowley, thank you both for the conversation.